History was made high in the sky today. For the very first time, a Canadian walked in space. Early this morning, astronaut Chris Hadfield began installing Canadarm 2, and with it, launched a new era for the International Space Station. Kathleen Petty reports.
You guys are done. We're going to move the arm to pre-cradle.
Chris Hadfield spent 4 years training for this mission and this moment.
Absolutely spectacular view.
The first Canadian to walk in space as the shuttle flew above the Atlantic off the coast of Brazil. Hadfield in the red stripes and fellow astronaut American Scott Parazynski got down to work.
I'll count that window toward you a little bit, Chris.
Their first task was to connect power cables between Canadarm2 and Alpha, the International Space Station.
It should be the tightest of the three.
And then 3.5 hours into the walk, the main event, unfolding the new 17-meter arm.
Very good. Time to loosen and extract the 4 lower EDFs. Okay, and work.
Hadfield rode on the elbow as it straightened out 1 degree per second.
Like winding up the world's biggest clock.
The new arm is the centerpiece of Canada's $1.4 billion contribution to the space station. It's bigger, smarter, and more flexible than the original Canadarm, and an essential component to the station's development.
I think that this is an absolutely phenomenal mission for Canadians. We're, of course, very, very proud. We have 2 things going on in this mission. We're launching the next generation of Canadian robotic technology that's going to be used to build the International Space Station. We have Chris Hadfield on his 2nd spaceflight doing the first Canadian spacewalk.
The spacewalk sometimes looked like a slow-motion ballet, both astronauts wearing suits that aren't much more than high-tech balloons. They're equipped with water, headphones, cameras, and a jet-propelled life jacket. That jacket could fly Hadfield back to safety in the event the cable connecting him to the shuttle broke.
Inboard upper.
More than 6 hours after they started, the work was done. And just as Endeavour flew over Newfoundland, Mission Control sent a special message to the Canadian on board and the Canadians watching below. Chris Hadfield will...
This is the Canadarm. It is 15.2 meters long. The diameter is 38 centimeters. It weighs 410 kilograms. It is used to move cargo and it can carry up to 30 tons.
Why did they make the Canadarm? It was used on a space shuttle to maneuver payload from the payload bay of the orbiter to its deployment position and release it. It can also grapple a free-flying payload, maneuver it to the payload bay of the orbiter and place it in the orbiter. NASA always paired the Canadarm with the orbiter boom sensor system, a boom to inspect damage to a shuttle. It can tap ice off vents on the shuttle. It can retrieve stray satellites. It can flip switches on satellites, and it takes pictures of stuff in space. How many tests did they perform? The arm cannot support even its own weight on Earth, so one of SPAR's Canadian suppliers built a test rig for it for use on a very flat floor. Cradled in the test rig, which glides on air-bearing pads, Canadarm can float over a floor as perfectly flat as modern technology can make it. The arm itself could move its shoulder, elbow, and wrist joints all at once, only in the plane of a floor. A malfunction in one of the fuel cells stopped the Canadarm's testing in space. Had to test lifting stuff in space because it can't even support its own weight on Earth. It went through vibration testing, thermal testing, vacuum testing, and electromagnetic compatibility. How long did it take to design and build? Work began on the program in 1975, and in April 1981, the first SRMS was delivered to NASA at a cost of approximately $108 million to the Canadian government. The first flight of the SRMS was later that year, November 12, 1981. SPAR Aerospace Limited designed, developed, tested, and built the Canadarm. 5 arms were built: Arm 201, 202, 301, 302, and 303. No one had ever put robotics into space before. It had to be light, resistant to extreme heat and cold, and compact. It was controlled by a joystick. They are working on a new way to move the Canadarm. They put on a special glove, and what you do with your hand, you do with the Canadarm. What were some missions for the Canadarm? It was first used on the 2nd Space Shuttle mission, STS-2, used on Challenger in 1983, used on Discovery in 1984. It was used on Atlantis during STS-61B, used on Endeavour during STS-49. Canadarm-2 was used on the International Space Station. Other missions include STS-2, STS-3, STS-69, STS-59, etc. And it went on over 50 missions.
What is the Canadarm made of? Electric motors to move the arm, graphite fiber synthetic tubes, copper tubes, type 302 stainless steel alloy for the gears, boom made out of graphite epoxy, joints that are 1 degree of freedom, gearboxes allowing it to bend. Electric harnesses provides power to all the joints in the mechanical hand. It has an orbiter boom sensor on the end. It has 6 joints. How is the Canadarm used? It's run by gears. It moves spacemen in space. It's remote controlled. It can set satellites into orbit, grab things with its mechanical hand, retracts satellites that fell out of orbit, inspect the exterior of the space shuttle for damage to the thermal protection system. How long has the Canadarm been in service? The first Canadarm was from 1981 to 2011. It flew over 50 missions on 4 shuttles. The Canadarm's last mission was on July 2011 on the STS-135. The second Canadarm is on the International Space Station. After retirement, it went to the Canadian Space Academy in St. Hubert, Quebec.